But first, the newspapers today make some uncomfortable reading for the Labour Party leadership. Reports of rifts between Jeremy Corbyn's most senior advisers and his closest allies, and a row brewing with the BBC after half a dozen former party staff broke gagging clauses to speak out about the way the party handles complaints. The party's Shadow International Trade Secretary, Barry Gardiner, joins us now. Thank you very much for being with us in the studio this morning. I just want to start with the story that is on the front page of the Sunday Times. Reports that around half a dozen former Labour Party staffers are going to go against gagging orders to talk to Panorama about their concerns over the way complaints are handled in the Labour Party. And the Labour Party is allegedly going to sue them. I mean, I thought you were the party that were on the side of workers.
We absolutely do not use gagging orders to hide anything that is illegal or improper. We use gagging orders only to stop former members of staff from leaking confidential information where we have an obligation to protect individuals and from doing that in a party political or partisan way for political purposes. So let me be clear about that, because actually we have suggested that there should be legislation, and we have actually as a party said that we would bring in legislation where we see companies using gagging orders, NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, to cover up anything that is, like racism or sexual abuse or illegal practices in the workplace.
So wouldn't concerns over anti-Semitism fall under that very legislation then? Because it's discrimination.
Yeah, look, I welcome any objective, impartial investigation that is going to help us to get rid of anti-Semitism in the Labour Party. Let me make that absolutely clear. My understanding of this programme is that it has not been balanced and impartial in that way. And indeed, what has happened is that the people who are involved in the NDAs and breaking those non-disclosure agreements have used selectively correspondence from about 18 months ago, when we were in between general secretaries. And what they've done is that they have taken information where they said, please help us in these cases, please give us advice, give us guidance. They haven't used that, they haven't said that. And where that guidance has come, they have and said, we believe there should be a stronger response than you have recommended. They haven't used those in the programme. So it's difficult to comment on a programme which I haven't seen, but my understanding is that it is not a balanced and objective investigation into anti-Semitism. It is a very partial view from a few members of staff who have a political axe to grind.
Isn't the problem here, though, the fact that who gets to decide whether or not whistleblowing is done in the right way? Surely it shouldn't be the people who are being whistleblown against. I mean, if this was another company, Labour would speak out against it.
Sorry, I've very clearly distinguished between what is a perfectly proper non-disclosure agreement. You will have an NDA with Sky News. I'm quite sure that you're not able to say certain things if you leave the company, which are confidential to the nature of the business. That is the NDAs that we believe has been breached. That's perfectly proper. What is not proper is to have an NDA which would cover up anything that's illegal or immoral. And that we have never done, and we would oppose it. So, but look, I think it's, let's see the programme, but my understanding is that it has not been the sort of impartial, objective view that I certainly would welcome to help us get rid of the anti-Semitism that sadly does exist in a very, very small minority of cases in the Labour Party.
The Sunday Times also reports that Diane Abbott and John McDonnell have urged Jeremy Corbyn to sack two of his closest aides because they are, in quotes, keeping him captive.
Yeah, look, the idea that they put forward that there is civil war in the Labour Party, let's look at the real divide in this country. The real divide in this country is not within the Labour Party. The real divide in this country is between what the Conservatives are trying to do with our country and the rest.
Okay.
And, no, but Sophie, really, at a time when there is a social care crisis destroying the lives of our elderly people, when there is a knife crime crisis that is destroying the lives of our young people, we have... No. In Jeremy Hunt last week, he was talking about bringing back fox hunting. Right? Boris Johnson was talking about the £700,000 pay cut he might have to take in order to sacrifice himself to become our Prime Minister. These guys are completely out of touch with what is going on in this country, and what they should have been talking about is why they're both of them breaking their promise made at the last general election that they would protect the TV licences, free TV licences for the over 75s. So if you want to look at the real divide in this country, the real issues, that's what they are. And we are being presented with two Tory contenders. 160,000 Tory party members are going to decide the future of our Prime Minister. They will have a vote. We don't have a vote. They will have a vote. And when they have a vote, some of them apparently have two, they will then decide the future of this country. I'm sick of it. I want a general election to deal with the real issues.
If you want a general election, then, can you commit that Labour will call a no-confidence vote in whoever becomes Prime Minister before MPs break up for the summer recess?
We'll call a no-confidence vote when we believe that those Conservative members of Parliament who have said that they would support a no-confidence motion in the government in order to stop a no deal are likely to support it.
Are you having those conversations with them, then?
Of course. Because the key thing here is, and look at what a no deal would entail.
So that means I just want to pick, that means it's likely to be, but from what you're saying, it sounds like it's more likely to be in the autumn.
Well, I don't know, because I can't read the minds of those Conservative MPs who've said that they're prepared to do this. But what we do know is that every business organisation in this country is telling us that a no-deal Brexit would be a disaster for jobs and our economy. And yet we have these two leadership contenders in the Conservative Party who say, no, we really mean it, we're very happy to take us out onto a no deal. This is a disaster for our country, and we seem to be sleepwalking into it. And all these other things are periphery. We have to focus on what is happening to our country.
OK, well, let's do that. Let's focus on the things that are happening to this country and Brexit. If there is an election, as you want, we'll, of course, need to know crystal clear what Labour's policy is. So does Labour want to stay in the EU, or do you want to leave the EU?
Look, our policy has moved, right? We started off...
Can you just answer it, please?
Yeah, of course. No, of course I will.
Because I ask this question so much, and it does feel sometimes that you just get these lengthy replies that just don't really answer what is a really straight question.
OK. You straight the question to me and I'll straight the answer.
OK, great. Does Labour want to stay in the EU or leave the EU?
Labour has always been an internationalist party. We wanted to stay in the EU and reform it. What then happened was we had a referendum where the people said they wanted to leave. And we have tried to respect that. We've tried to hold in tension our view that actually economically, in terms of jobs, in terms of the economy, we would be better off staying in the EU with the democratic accountability to the people. And that is why we tried to negotiate the deal with the government to make sure that we could honour the referendum result, but they would not move. They refused to change their red lines. They refused to look at a customs union in which we would have a say. They absolutely blocked that. And that is why we have had now to move to the end of the process that we outlined at our party conference, and to say, in that case, we will do anything to stop a no-deal Brexit. Because you look at the trade statistics that came out last week, the investment in this country, new projects down by 14%, new jobs from that investment down 24%, and investment that is protecting existing jobs down 54%. This is what is happening as a result of Brexit chaos in this country that the Tories have led us to.
If there is an election then, as a result of a no-confidence vote, which really could happen by the end of the year, will Labour campaign to stay in the EU or to leave the EU?
We did before the first referendum, and obviously we decide in a democratic way our party's policy.
So who decides then?
It's a Clause 5 meeting, which means that all the key elements of our party come together. They decide what our manifesto commitments are. That's what we did last time. That's what.
Does that include members?
Oh, yes, of course.
So if it does include members, then surely it would...
No, of course.
Most members want to stay in,
non-members don't end up taking
No, but this is important, isn't it? Because it does feel like different parts of the Labour movement want different things.
No, look, the Labour movement wants a Labour government. They want to get rid of this Conservative government that is causing such distress in our society, that is eroding our public services.
Do you want to stay in or leave?
And yes, we have always been a Remain and Reform party, OK? We tried to reconcile ourselves with what the democratic will of the people was at that referendum. And we tried to do that sincerely. But we always said we would not accept a no deal. We now have two Conservative putative prime ministers who are saying they are happy to take us out on a no deal. And people in the Conservative Party, Conservative MPs, are saying that they would side with a Labour motion of no confidence in their own government because they see the disaster that is waiting for the British public if those two get the chance to get into Downing Street.
OK, Barry Gardiner, thank you very much for coming on the programme this morning.